Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or in this case, I think it is just gentlemen, but that's okay. More will come. If you stream it, people will come. It is I, Curtis Selby, your tired midnight blogger what blogs, in this case, at 6 p.m. on a Thursday evening after a very difficult day at work, but also a quasi-productive one. Topic today is, have I become too biased? And the reason I'm asking this question, a friend of mine called me out for my last stream, and I'm not meaning to call them out. Everybody has the right to criticize, and he did so with respect. And there were times when the texts back and forth, at least on my end, probably got a little edgy, as it were. It started out with him telling me he wanted to send a comment, but he wanted to know if it was too confrontational. I won't go too deep into it because, again, it's not about calling him out. It's about legitimately asking the question. In the end, I kind of left it go kind of hanging, which may not be great, but every time I tried to make myself text something like, the journey I've been on this last 6 months, I'm seeing things way differently than you do. For some reason, I just couldn't seem to get it out in text without it just sounding really disrespectful or crappy. And so I'm doing this instead. I'm not going to entirely explore it because I don't want to rehash old videos and things. I do know this. One of my other friends who frankly was scaring me with the liberal bias that he had, not because it was liberal, but because he was believing things that even in my anti-Trump days, I knew were not true, and I didn't know how to challenge him without it sounding hateful or mean. And he would say these things like Biden's foreign policy is brilliant. I'm sorry, even then I couldn't agree with that. And it's one of the reasons why I've kind of gone down this journey, because I can't convince my friends, even if they're listening. I'm fairly certain from the text of my friend that I'm not convincing him, and that's okay. But Matt Cheatwood put it very eloquently down here. I'll get to that. I'm going to say hello to the chat, and then I'll dive into the topic proper. Oh, yes, I know what I was going to say. One of the things that he'd say that would disturb me would be stuff like, there was a Democratic assessment of whether or not certain trials against Trump were unbiased, and the Dems always found that there was no bias. I felt that this was disingenuous because it would be very easy for me to go on this channel right now and say, I am unbiased. You guys are just full of crap. Because we always, maybe I should say always, but we often self-evaluate ourselves with a truckload of salt. We give ourselves grace that we're not willing to give other people. The friend that texted me was much more unbiased. He's much more objective than that. any organization to police itself. It's rarely done very effectively. You have to have like internal affairs departments for policemen. You have to have something that makes it objective and makes it even, because very few of us are objective enough to police ourselves. Say hello to the people in the chat. John Ponterero, thank you very much. My asset status makes me biased. Hell to the all those rubles the Russians send me. Comrade Tim El Tovrish makes the statement that Tim feels that the Democrats want to tank Kamala's campaign so they can blame Trump for any issues that may happen, and before Biden leaves, he gives all the illegals amnesty and citizenship. I hadn't really thought of that. I don't know that I agree with that, but it is an interesting thought. I hadn't considered something like that before. Matt Cheatwood, good evening. Here we go. You said some eloquent things that I want to make sure are said. Bias is a tricky thing. Unbiased, and I talked a little bit about this on my last stream. Unbiased used to mean reporting that was true, not reporting that pandered equally. And sometimes I wonder if in my efforts to be centrist, I've done that. You also said, what exactly is your meaning of bias? I strive to be completely biased in favor of truth. I would be thoroughly disgusted with myself if I was unbiased between truth and propaganda. And I said in the chat, sort of is my meaning of bias. Am I, have I let my pro-Trumpness, my angst with the Democrats, have I let that go on so far that I'm willing to just listen to the propaganda on one side and not consider actual true facts? Tim does not know my pronouns. I wish I could think of something clever. Matt Cheatwood, the mainstream media has co-opted the meaning of bias, in my opinion. They are unabashedly biased in favor of their currently preferred politics. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why I've kind of let that go. Maybe that's wrong, and maybe it was right for my friend to call me out on it. Matt Cheatwood doesn't care what anyone's pronouns are. My pronouns are none of your damn business. Damn right. We investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong. And Sci-Fi Mombi, God bless you. Thank you very much for showing up. I know you are someone with a different perspective on this than a lot of people. So please, everyone, be kind, be sweet to Sci-Fi Mombi. While I am dumb enough to talk about politics, she's smart enough on her channel not to talk about it. I think I've kind of know what her politics is, but we all need to love each other, welcome each other. We're not going to answer any of this with hate or anything like that. So thank you for showing up. God bless you. And Sci-Fi Mombi, we're human. It's easy to be biased. Education, knowledge, when the information is pure, helps remove bias. 100%. 100%. Let me end the soft prone music, and let's see if I've gathered up enough stuff to make it worth your while. Hopefully this is informative and somewhat entertaining. One of the things that my friend and I discussed, and please, I know you will be respectful, so please chime in, Sci-Fi, whether you agree or not. My friend was saying that the right censors far more than the left. And it is my humble opinion that that's not so, that it is the other way around. And the evidence that I use, in fact, I'll just read my tweet to him, which may not be fair since he hasn't made his comment, but okay, in my humble opinion, what is going on in Oklahoma is vastly outweighed by things going on at the national level. because my friend believes, and he has a lot of strong evidence, that the Republicans in Oklahoma are pretty censorious. And unless you've got some evidence otherwise, I'm kind of inclined to agree with him. But the things happening at the national level outweigh that. The Taibbi files, and no, Trump is not innocent of censorship. When you read those files, he has also censored. So we can't drink Kool-Aid. We have to face what's going on. The reports of Tulsi, Kennedy, Brett Weinstein, Dr. Chatterjee, Dr. Einstein, censorship is real. It's wrong. I can no longer ignore it. Likely I should point out more of Trump's faults, but I learn more and more things being, well, anyway, I won't go too deep into that. I learn more and more that a lot of things that are said are lies. And it makes it very difficult to get at the truth when, and again, I know the right does this too. So don't think I'm coming after anybody, but when you dig into something and you find out that 7 out of the 9 statements made on something are lies, it makes you wonder, what the hell? What can you believe in? What can you rely on? Tim, I do know what April's views are, but I get along with her. Oh, hell to the yes. We love April. Tim is right. I refuse to allow politics to get in the way of friendships. God bless you. And I'm afraid that maybe I am. It's one of the reasons why I'm asking the question. It's one of the reasons why there's a poll up there. Please feel free, vote however you believe. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to change exactly, but I do want to be held accountable. I don't want this to just be an echo chamber and only pro-Trump people are allowed in here, and only, if you believe Trump did, say for example, if you believe Trump was an insurrectionist on January 6th, and I'm not taking a stand on that one right now because it's too delicate. But if you believe that, I don't want other people to come down and say, well, no, it's not. You're a big dodo head. And then I just listen to that side. Projecting is a problem, 100%. Tim's views are 80% conservative, 10% liberal, 10% libertarian. The last 20% is on social issues. And, I've kind of gone back and forth myself. This channel has basically been a documentation of my journey of thought for the last 6 months or so. I've gone from being a hardline conservative to someone who realized that he was being lied to a lot by the right, who was very disillusioned with Trump, was very disillusioned with the Republican Party. But then I've had a journey of not necessarily going back, because that's not exactly the case. But I believe, I guess the best way to put it is, I really would love for there to be a candidate who I could just believe in. And I think most of us kind of feel a despair of that. Matt Cheatwood, especially censorship by the government is expressly forbidden by the First Amendment. And April, I'm having the tired blogger thing is real. I know you're against censorship, and God bless you for that. We're cool. I respect your views. You're held accountable when you pull the lever at the battle. Well, yeah, that's true. I don't mean this to sound mean, but whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden, we're kind of getting the government we deserve. We've voted for these people. We've put them here. And we can't change if, one, we don't dive into what the truth really is, and two, if we're hateful about the way we go about it. And it's one of the reasons why I didn't do very well with texting my friend, because I am upset with my friend. I love him like a brother. I would literally take a bullet for him, but I am upset that there are lies that I feel he's believed. And I feel like unless everything I've said on this channel is just pure balderdash, even if you want to believe that the right censors more than the left, I can't. It is very difficult for me to be patient with someone who is going to tell me that the left doesn't censor or doesn't censor very much. I think that's balderdash. Matt Cheatwood, I don't like Trump. I would much rather have a candidate that I could actually respect. 100%. 100%. If we have the time, we'll get into this. I do want everyone to go. Unless, April, you're doing something, please, if you're doing something later, please share it in the chat. I think you are, actually. So please feel free to share it in the chat. I definitely, though, do want to get done before Netter's Network. She's the one who kind of got me my start, so I always want to be supportive of her. I want to have this stream ended by 9, but I, as always, will try to cram in as much as I can. Tim is against censorship, too. It's also called let's use some logic when you say stuff. Yeah, like don't go to a grape treatment center. Oh, yeah, oh, my God, yeah. Have some class, read the room a little bit. I think we all agree with that. It's not Biden anymore, my friend. I've never voted for former President Trump, and I can't. And I understand that. I'm not going to try to persuade you to. That's really not what I'm here for. Yes, I'm going to vote for him. I've had my journey, and I may be wrong, but I can't expect you to respect my viewpoint and my stance. If why won't you vote for him? Come on, he's such a good guy. You know, we have to be realistic. The government is forbidden to censor, and it's true. I mean, the jokes, while they would be completely insensitive, yeah, I agree. The government shouldn't be the one stopping it. Now, I think most of you would agree that I would be okay with someone slapping that person on the mouth, because to me, that's not censorship. That's consequences of your speech. But the government itself really shouldn't have any say in anything like that. It's your turn to scream. Sci-Fi Mommy starts at 7. Oh, okay. So, yeah, you're probably going to be starting pretty soon. I don't know that I can get done by then, but anyone who's like sick and tired of hearing me ramble or just wants to see Insidious, please go to Sci-Fi Mombies and have a wonderful time. I want to support everybody that I can. Private persons can censor to the extent that they have the power to do so. Tim wasn't talking about the government doing. I think Matt understood that. There's the link to Sci-Fi Mombies stream. So again, please, if you get tired of my rambling by then, because I doubt that I'll be done by then, but go and watch Insidious. And later, I will likely be mostly in Netter's Network, but I may ping pong between the two of you because I want to support you as much as I can. I love your channel and I love your family. Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Yes, you become so biased, you better stop there before I get booted. Right on. Gorilla's Censored Thoughts. One of the few people who actually get censored on my. And you know what, Sci-Fi Mommy? I think you should feel honored because that person that I muted on your channel the other day is literally the first person I've ever muted on YouTube. So, and he had it coming. The government is forbidden censors. Up to the American people to censor ourselves. Yes, 100%. Violence is not a reasonable response to any words other than a threat. Well, yeah, you have a point. And you know, I'm too much of a weenie. I wouldn't do it, but I guess I wouldn't be terribly offended. I don't know. I'm crayfishing. That's what I'm doing. Grills Random Thoughts is all for someone to call a person the N-word, but also I won't stop the other person from beating your ass. My parents always say sometimes better not say anything at all, and I live by that. Yeah, that's why I leave politics once a year on the channel and taboo topics. 100%. I've kind of slid into it because what this channel was originally meant to be was just basically me thinking out loud and trying to talk about the topics that interest me, trying to figure out the truth of things. But part of trying to figure out the truth is trying to figure out mean, how do we wade through all the media lies? You know, it's so difficult, and you cannot do it when you're in an echo chamber, but yet most of us end up there. Matt Cheatwood again, if someone resorts to violence, the victim is justified in using lethal force in defense. Are people willing to die over being called the N-word? Oh, good question. Good question. Political violence or harm to our political opponents have no place in American politics. Amen. And that's also a part of the journey that I've taken. And again, with respect to you, April, I was not pro-Trump at all until the day someone tried to shoot him. And I know you probably have the legitimate thought, well, you're being overly emotional. You know, that doesn't, just because somebody shot at him doesn't make him right, this or that. But I guess I've always been that way. If somebody starts trying to physically hurt, as much as I say I'm a crayfisher, I will do what I can to stop someone from physically harming you. And it may not be much, may not be adequate, but I will do what I can. So there it is. But I 100% agree, April. Gorilla's Random Thoughts. I'll argue anytime over politics. I know you will. Tim says, if you saw the Kentucky Fried movie, you know the part I'm thinking about and their reaction. I have not seen that. Matt Cheatwood loves talking politics. The best way to test your positions and discover flaws in your reasoning. Enigma Severus says, my face is too biased. Yes, it is. Welcome, sir. I hope you are doing well. I hope you had a great workout. I hope we all learn a little bit and or get a little bit of entertainment out of this. Rilla's Random Thoughts. I'm voting for the person who isn't going to send me or my kid off to a pointless war. And respectfully, I agree. Tim, I didn't vote for Trump in the 2016 primary. I voted for him in the election and in 2020 and this year too. I voted for him in 2016. My friends are rather upset about that. I voted for who was the Libertarian in 2020? I voted Libertarian in 2020, and it's sad that I can't even remember. Since 2020, almost every vote that I've made has been a protest vote. I have done as much as I could to vote either independent or libertarian, where I was basically forced to vote for someone in the party. I basically voted contrarian. I voted for Democrats in Oklahoma. I think I voted Republican for the national side. I do have a contrarian tendency. April, I'm concerned that former supporters have turned against former President Trump. I was worried about that for years, and I understand that. I do. It's not something to be ignored. Small rallies are a sign of a change. But I also want to interpose, and again, with respect, because your point's valid. But I also can't ignore Tulsi and Kennedy and the many liberals who are supporting him now. And I have to ask myself, why is that? They can't all be, and I know this isn't what you're thinking, or if it is, forgive me for being a little mocking if it is, but they can't all be Russian accents. They can't all be just brainwashed people, because literally all of these are people who voted against Trump. Nearly all of these are people who voted for Biden. What's changed? And what are we supposed to do? But Joe Jorgensen, yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, that was it. I think. Curselli says, the scene is a man goes to a group of black men, says the word, they said the hell, as the guy runs away. Oh, in that movie. Matt Cheatwood, my good man. Gorilla's Random Thoughts. My first vote was Obama. My excuse, I'm not going to get on to you for that. As long as you don't literally vote for a Nazi, I'm not going to get on to anybody for voting for anybody. My excuse is I was 20 and still listening to CNN. For that, I apologize. I understand. April, vote split ticket all the time. Good on you. I vote for those who support blue and white collar working class, not big business. I Love that. Because, yeah, I'm against big government. I'm not against big business. I'm just against big business running our lives. I'm against big business promoting all of these lies and forcing us to vote the way they want. And I hate that. Enigma Severus, I'm just trying to keep my farm running. I hope you're doing okay, sir. That's always a good thing. The subject of what is Nazism and fascism is really interesting to me. I might need to talk about that one of these days. Sci-Fi Mommy, no, there aren't. 20-year-old was a supporter till former President Trump failed him. Same for the man who was outside Mar-a-Lago, who was a supporter till the Ukraine war broke out. Yeah, I know. And I'm not meaning to poo-poo any of that. I still have my stance, but I get it. I've come where I've come with a lot of kind of agony and pain. Matt, I'm shocked at how few Americans understand what those ideologies are actually about, and it's stunning. Tim, the Libertarian Party jet ticket was Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen. Yeah, then that's who I voted for. I'm sorry that I can't remember. I've a lot of things. One, the chronic fatigue is real, and it causes your mind to do some really crazy shit. But the other thing is I've just had so much more on my mind than Joe Jorgensen since then. Enigma Severus, look, I think there's a big misconception on the liberal side, though. Conservatives are not concerned with what liberals desire to do. We just don't desire to be forced to accept it. Gorilla's Random Thoughts. I need to do a stream of whether or not you would have a beer with the mustache man. Ooh. Matchy Wood, I'm a bit groggy. Forgive my incoherent verbiage. Okay. I've got to actually start sharing some stuff. I love the chat. Don't even get me wrong. You guys are wonderful, intelligent. I'm so honored to have you guys here. But because I'm going to at least concede that I understand why my friend was upset that I was one-sided in my criticism of Kamala. Great discussion. Have a great night. Oh, and have a great night. I hope you have a great stream. Thank you. Sci-Fi Mommy, the kid only donation was to Act Blue, so was the other man. He made several. Yeah. Actually, I say yeah, but I'm not 100% sure. The kid only donation. What do you mean on that? But I'll go ahead and start sharing some things. So, as I've said, Trump also censored. I hop up and down about the Democrats doing it because I do feel they do it more. I feel like they do it in a more unfair fashion. But it's not exclusive to them. And so I couldn't find an article that I actually liked or agreed with. But I'm going to share this with you, and you guys can make up your own minds about what you think. Gorilla's Random Thoughts. First attempt, he registered as Republican, but he donated. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. I agree, Enigma Severus. So you're basically saying that Trump registered as a Republican, but he actually acted very liberal. And he did. I know the liberals howl when you say that, but he's really not a right winger. I'm sorry to say that, but he's not. I think it's a lie that he's a hardcore right winger. Now, that doesn't necessarily make him a good guy. It doesn't necessarily mean you should vote for him, but I do think you should vote for him knowing that a lot of lies are told about him. And I really hope that you're not voting because of those lies. I hope you're voting for more legitimate reasons. I agree, Enigma Severus. The definition of tolerance has changed drastically in my lifetime. What liberals demand and call tolerance used to be called acceptance or even support. I know that there's a lot of debate in the community about the gaming industry, about which I don't want to get into very much because I'm not a gamer. But a lot of people say, well, yeah, they get so mad because we're not supporting them, but that's, we don't have to support them. And I know there's probably two sides to that, but I do tend to be on the side of you vote with your dollars. If you don't want to buy the game, you don't want to buy the game. I don't know if your reasons are good or not, but it's your money. You do what you want with it. Oh, the kid who tried to shoot him. Oh, I'm totally off. Okay. Gosh, and that there's so much, there's something wrong there. And I don't want to go, I'm not one of these people that thinks that the Dems are behind it, but there's something funky. There's something wrong that went on there. And I do think that there was some group, some government, some organization, but I'm not going to go so far as to say that the Dems did it, because I want to believe that, even though I oppose them, I want to believe that neither Biden nor Kamala would do that. Gorilla's Random Thoughts. It is true, though. Trump is far more of an old school liberal than a hardcore right winger. Tim, I have a friend who's helping with the DNC. He played hockey together and have been friends since 2001. When we meet or chat on Facebook, I always keep my views to myself. Very smart. Very smart. Meow, meow, Maury Kitty. Howdy, howdy. I know you are also having a stream very soon. So if you're tired of my ranting here, go see her stream. She will have a good, scary Halloween movie. I can't remember what it is, but she will have a wonderful Halloween movie. And feel free, use your wrench to leave a link in the chat, so when I annoy the shit out of people, they can go and watch your movie. Tim says something that are center, calling it out when I see it on both sides. I said, if Trump wins, a lot of people who didn't do anything bad will get fired. If he loses, a lot of people will be angry too. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a win in this. There really doesn't. More Kitty, I saw your poll. I don't think you're too biased. I just don't understand how you haven't been radicalized yet. The only reason I haven't been radicalized, Moira, Enigma Severus, I've said it to you, so hopefully you can read between the lines, because I cannot come out on YouTube and say what's in my heart. This video will come down, at the very least, if I say what's in my heart. I think whoever wins, I suspect that we cannot last as a republic for very long. I think something horrible could be about to happen. And every now and then I get a little bit of hope, and then something else happens, like the Trump assassination, or there's all kinds of things that make me just despair. I guess the best way to delicately put it is, I'm not radicalized because I'm not 100% sure who I need to go up against. If I 100% knew this person's the villain, that group's the villain, they're the ones orchestrating this, well, then I might just stop even doing anything on YouTube and go on Rumble and start ranting like that dumbass on Twin Peaks. Shovel your way out of the shit. Okay, I promised to give some content. Let's read what Rolling Stone, I know it's not a great effort at equal time, but let's read what the other side says about the censorship. Some of this will probably be true. In fact, maybe all of it. Twitter kept, and some of it is. You can find it in the Taibbi files. Twitter kept entire database of Republican requests to censor posts. Elon Musk's Twitter's files focus on Democrats, but former administration officials and Twitter employees say Trump's team and other Republicans routinely demanded posts be taken down. When the White House called up Twitter in the early morning hours of September 9, 2019, officials had what they believed was a serious issue to report. Famous model Chrissy Teigen had just called President Donald Trump a I won't repeat that. But he called him an expletive on Twitter. And the White House wanted the tweet to come down. Moira Kitty is radicalized against all of them. But, and I respect you, but having said that, if my thought is, and I get where you're coming from. My thought is, I can't fight all of them. I need to direct my focus at whoever the real big bad is. And that's actually a part of what this channel is all about. I know that it's unrealistic, but I would love for my searches for truth, my investigation, my talking to people in the community, I would love to figure out who the big bad is. Tim, this isn't the old days when stuff like that happened to Trump. People to pray for him to get better. If it was like Reagan, not today. Moira, we can try. Well, yeah, I know. And I don't mind dying for a cause. I don't. I just want to be sure that if I'm going to die for a cause, that I'm not just dying for something that turns out to be just a bunch of dumbasses, because it's turned out so many times that the side that I've been on turned out to be a big ball of shit. Moira Kitty targets the deep state every time I rant about politics, and I think you are not wrong to do so. I just wish I knew who is the, I mean, and I know where you're going to go and you're not entirely wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. But I know Zionism is a part of it. It's a part of it. But I don't know I don't know who the big bad is. When the White House, the exchange revealed during Wednesday's House Oversight Committee hearing on Twitter by Representative Jerry Connolly. This was written back in 2023. And others like it are nowhere to be found in Elon Musk's Twitter Files releases, which have focused almost exclusively on requests from Democrats and the feds to the social media company. The newly empowered Republican majority in the House of Representatives is now devoting significant resources and time to investigating this supposed collusion between liberal politicians and Twitter. Some Republicans even believe the release of the Twitter files is the tip of the spear of their crusade against the alleged liberal bias of big tech. But former Trump administration officials and Twitter employees tell Rolling Stone that the White House's Tagan tweet demand was hardly an isolated incident. The Trump administration and its allied Republicans in Congress routinely asked Twitter to take down posts they objected to, the exact behavior that they're claiming makes President Biden, the Democrats, and Twitter complicit in an anti-free speech conspiracy to muzzle conservatives online. It was strange to me when all these investigations were announced because it was all about the exact same stuff that we had done when Donald Trump was in office. One former top aide to a senior Trump administration official tells Rolling Stone it was normal. In interviews with former Twitter personnel, one-time Trump administration officials, and other people familiar with the matter, each source recalled what could be described as a hotline, tip line, or large Twitter database of moderation and removal requests that was frequently pinged by the offices of powerful Democrats. The voluminous requests often came from high-ranking political appointees working in different departments, offices, and agencies in the Trump administration. But during both the Trump and Biden presidencies, these types of moderation requests or demands were routinely sent to Twitter by the staff of influential GOP lawmakers, ones with names like Kevin McCarthy and Elise Stefanik. Oftentimes, requests would demand Twitter stop shadow banning. Now, here's where I decided to use this article, and I'm being a little bit disingenuous because, again, I do have my slant. But I don't want to comment too much on it because I want you to make up your own minds. Yeah, I do know, Maura. I do. And I'm not meaning to stop you from saying it. I just, God bless you. Sometimes I I would love for you to be able to run for governor again. But anyway, that's all neither here nor there. I'm full of shit, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm afraid we're going to have across the Rubicon moment where there is no going back. And isn't it interesting? Again, whichever side you're on this subject, please just consider this question. How in the hell is it that January 6th was not across the Rubicon moment? Yeah, Tim. I mean, and maybe January 6th was, although for me it wasn't. For me, the Rubicon was the assassination attempt on Trump. Laura Kitty, I think we're close. Haven't crossed it just yet. Maybe so. I don't see it stopping this time. Thank you. You're very kind, Moira. You're very kind. Sashi, the man from the future. Slant, was that an Asian slur? Canceled. Yes. Sashi's probably going to get me canceled one of these days. Moira Kitty, at the risk of infuriating my liberal friends, I agree. And this is one of the things, the friend that I'm talking about, the friend that I'm inspired this channel, and I guess I'll go back for those of you who came in later, like Enigma and Moira. One of my friends called me out for my last post and said it was, I'm kind of unfairly paraphrasing, but essentially he hinted that it was too biased, that he didn't understand why. And he wasn't mean or hateful. He was respectful about the whole thing. And I hope we're still friends, although I may have been a little bit crass myself. But that is what I have become to believe. I've come to believe that there were bad elements on both sides of the aisle who were instigating some shit. And, that's not to poo-poo any of it. I still think it was a terrible thing and shouldn't have happened. But the 6th was hijacked and ruined to discourage the movement getting bigger. And I tend to agree. I think that is what happened. And I think that's why January 6th was not a Rubicon, because, well, I don't want to go so far as to say it was staged, because then I've got no moral high ground to be mad at the people who say that the Trump assassination attempt was staged. But I do think that there were instigators, there were people who frankly were not actually part of the Trump movement, but we've been showed the images of them, and they're the Trump movement. No, they're not. They're dumbasses who are rioting. And I think that's one of the lies that the left and even myself believed for a while. And I think that if you're going to vote for Kamala, please do, but don't vote because Trump tried to incite an insurrection on January 6th. He may have been wrong about the election. We can discuss that, but I'm no longer one of these people who believes that Trump tried to incite an insurrection. My main reasoning for that is because if he had wanted to, I think it would have happened. Hey, Resolute Germ, howdy. I hope you are doing well. Resolute Germ also has a wonderful channel. I keep missing him because I'm like a big dumbhead dodo head, but he does some wonderful watch parties. Check him out. Tim, everything on January in 2020 to January 6th was just weird to begin with. Kitty is right about January 6th. And here's the deal. It does matter that it was a lie. Don't get me wrong. But it matters so much more because it's been used to justify almost everything that's happened since. Every lie, every action, all of it's justified. All the censorship's justified because we have to make sure January 6th doesn't happen again. And this friend that I'm talking about, the reason I brought him up, and then I forgot to say the punchline, he'd always listened to me. And I'm sorry, I know I'm calling you out, but I have to get this thought out. You would listen to me. You were one of the few liberal friends who would listen to me when I said that I thought that there were CIA, FBI elements in that riot. But I've gotten to feel in the last year or two that you're just poo-pooing me, that you don't actually believe it yourself, or you wouldn't be holding some of the views that you hold. Feel free to comment about that, my friend, because maybe I'm being unfair there, but that is my thought. And that's probably what I should have texted you last night, but I couldn't think of a way to say it without sounding shitty. January 6th could have been a Rubicon, but was screwed to stop it. Agreed. I just delayed it. I get the bias accusation from liberals all the time. It's just them trying to justify their terrible beliefs. And again, I want to be a little bit careful here. I want to not be disrespectful to my liberal friends, but where I'm going to agree with you, I'm going to try to be a little bit PC about how I agree with you. January 6th has justified a cadre of terrible things that I cannot imagine my friends being okay with if it weren't for their justification being January 6th. I don't know how to spell. Oh, skewed. Oh, no. Yeah, you're right. It's SKEWED. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Tim, if Trump wanted to, he has the military. Well, I think he has the non-coms. I think the trouble, and with respect to you, I think that a lot of the brass, the generals and stuff, I think even during his administration, a lot of them were anti-Trump. I think that I've become convinced that general that said all that stuff about how Trump was ordering him to insurrect and all that, I have become convinced that he's a fucking bullshitting plant of the Dems. Again, because, okay, fine, that general didn't obey. You're telling me Trump isn't smart enough to find a general that would obey, or a colonel, or a fucking major, or something? Matt Cheatwood, it's still coming. It might be something like the POTUS ordering military action against citizens. Honestly, maybe I'm being unfair, but sometimes I wonder if his dementia is what has spared us from that. I may be being unfair. Moira Kitty, a false flag about Middle Easterns will be used to get the Rubicon moment, a black swan event. Yeah. Sashi, of course I'm biased. I have to maintain my white privilege after all. Hell to the yes. And I know you have white privilege. Haha. Matt Cheatwood, I've been hearing a lot of anti-Iran chatter lately. And you know what? This is something I'm going to criticize Trump on. When the deep state, when the FBI comes to him and says, hey, these shooters are Iranian things, maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. But I'm not going to trust the fucking FBI, not after the shenanigans they've pulled. I have the suspicion that we'll probably never really know who's behind these guys. But it does seem like it's just a justification. Let's go to war. We can finally even get Trump convinced to go to war if we have somebody try to kill him. The military brass can't be trusted. General Flynn was ambushed by that brass. Yeah, and I know we've talked about, I wish we could have gone further into it. We've talked about how he's maybe not a great guy himself, but 100% he was set up. The brass are mainly political entities, not as in charge as they believe, and that's true, actually. Pleasant Valley, Pickard, California. Howdy, howdy. I welcome you. I think I've seen you before, but I welcome you here because I don't think I see you here often. Thank you for being here. I used to be left center years ago. Back then, left was actually progressive, not the pile of crap it has become. Yeah. That it's all the things Kennedy's been saying. Frosty B. Rocks, welcome, welcome. Evening, helping a friend put up a fence, having a quick smoke break, and coming to hit the like. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. More Kitty, what happened with that Afghan guy in Oklahoma City recently? The FBI is always involved. Oh, man, you probably talked about it, but I don't remember that. Damn, I hate the chronic fatigue sometimes. Hugs, Frosty, Sashi, Pleasant Valley, people saying hello to each other. I love that. Pleasant Valley Picker, I've moved to the right in recent times. Yeah, and I hope, again, I'm trying not to just totally swallow the Kool-Aid, but after the assassination attempt, I've found myself, I can't in good conscience support this current Democratic regime. More Rickety, General Flynn isn't the man he was anymore. He was weakening. It was because of what was done. Oh, I understand. And I know you know way more about him than I do, so I'm going to defer to you on that. Pleasant Valley Picker, I'm Canadian, actually, but everyone thinks I'm from California. I think I have called you Canadian Pickers. I mean, Matt Cheatwood is progressive. I want to progress to a more perfect union with liberty and justice for all. Amen. I'm too old to never swallow anyone's Kool-Aid. Yeah, I'm afraid some of the lies are going to get through, especially the sheer volume of them. Some of them will get through to us. Presidents are seen as temporary employees by the agencies. Presidents come and go. The intelligence services remain. People that would have been deep state, example, Henry Kissinger, who, as you probably know, has been both on the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergs, and the World Economic Forum, all three. Hey, Jeff B., howdy, welcome. I'm ranting about whether or not I'm biased and basically not really making any good points. Yes, I knew what you meant. And put the maple leaf up, Pleasant Valley. Right on. Pleasant Valley, I'm not a huge fan of Trump. If I was American, I'd vote for him. I understand. And I've documented this on my channel. I have been really pro-Trump. And then after January 6th, I was very anti-Trump. And now I've learned that a lot of the things that made me anti-Trump ended up being lies. And here's the deal. If you've watched me, we've taken we've done it over and over and over again. People better than me have done it over and over again. You can take Huckabee's 9 lies told about Trump, and with just a minimal amount of research, and I don't mean researching Fox or Newsmax, I mean research their sites, research CNN, they have recently confessed. 7 of those 9 things he brought up, I could easily prove to be lies. One of my friends is calling. Hopefully they're okay. They're probably listening and upset with me. Hopefully not, though. Hopefully not. Matt Cheatwood, Pleasant Valley Picker, Frosty B. Rocks. If I was American, I'd write in Dr. Shiva. I can understand that. He's better than the Democratic opposition. Oh, you have a link. I may not follow up on that one, Matt, only because I'm spending a lot of time not saying very much. Dr. Shiva is getting mentioned in Rania chat today and Breakthrough News more and more, looking at Dr. Shiva. Pleasant Valley, one thing Trump will probably do is defend the West from terrorists. I hope he does. Okay, so the whole reason I decided to read this article, I don't know that I'm going to read the whole thing. Oftentimes, requests from the right would demand Twitter stop shadow banning certain conservative accounts, or that the company reinstate banned or suspended right-wing personas. Let that sink in. Oftentimes, requests from the right would demand Twitter stop shadow banning certain conservative accounts or that the company reinstate banned or suspended right-wing personas. So they've been hopping up and down. The Republicans wanted to censor, and they did. But now they're admitting that a lot of the requests, and they don't say how many. That's one of the things I like about the Taibbi files. He's got numbers. Whether you believe him or not, whether he's focusing on the wrong things or not, he has numbers. He can back it up with receipts. This is not backed up with a receipt. The voluminous requests came from high-ranking political appointees to stop shadow banning or reinstate banned people. So which one's doing more of the censoring? I'll read a little bit more in fairness. Other times, offices of senior Trump administration officials would send emails seeking to remove tweets they believe to be hate speech or death threats aimed at their principals. And humbly and respectfully, I can understand why that might be legit. Frosty B. Rocks, Trump serves the terrorists. I don't want to get into that here, but I think I know what you're talking about. Pleasant Valley Picker, we had protesters in front of the Vancouver Art Gallery a few days ago waving Palestine flags, chanting "Death to Canada, America, and Israel." Then they burned the Canadian flag. I was disgusted. Matt Cheatwood, I don't care what flavor of government is dissenting censorship. It is illegal, and it is. I think I may have passed through that part in Canada. The picket fence hurts too much to sit on. You got to pick a side. Yeah. And my friend got upset when I said that his side was doing things. And again, now I'm bordering on calling him out. And he said, no, I'm a Reagan Republican. I'm just upset with Trump and all of this. And I get it. But you do have a side, my friend. You do have a side. Maybe it's right side, maybe it's the wrong side, maybe I'm on the wrong side. But you do have a side. You are clearly siding with the Democrats against Trump. Again, maybe you're the one that's right. Frosty B. Rocks. Those protesters couldn't have been operatives in any way or doing that on purpose to turn people against Palestinians and Muslims. And to be fair to both of you, because I don't want to take a side in this at the moment, I've just said that happened on January 6th, so it would be disingenuous to say that you're wrong, Frosty B. I do 100% wonder about that. With respect, I'm not very comfortable with some of the protests for Palestine, although I don't want Palestinians dead, and I don't want Israel to just carte blanche kill people. But at the same time, I do suspect that there's bad elements that are instigating those as well. Matt, it's a mistake to think that there are only two sides to choose from. That's true. Dad Man Walking. Howdy. Thank you for showing up. Just be yourself. As long as you listen and give serious consideration to the opposing view, then I think you can't be too biased. Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you for showing up. I know if you haven't checked out Dad Man Walking, I usually go to Mrs. Dadman Walking, and no, I'm not trying to be sleazy, Dadman. It's just she's on in the morning, and I can't often really pay attention, but I can sometimes have her on in the background. So I want to be as supportive to you guys as I can. Oh, Tim Mint, California. Motor Kitty, when a boot is on your neck, it does matter if it's the left or right. It doesn't matter if it's the left or right boot. That is true. That is true. Pleasant Valley. There's a channel on YouTube that monitors these groups. They got hundreds of emails from these protest groups. The emails were basically the same and from one address. Frosty B, they planted a Nazi flag at our Freedom Convoy protest. Yes, I know that. And I hate that. To try and portray us as Nazis, agent provocateurs are a thing and real. Dad Man Walking. She's better anyway. Go be biased. Okay. Pleasant Valley Picker, the channel is a Canadian newspaper. From what they are saying, the letter campaign was organized and funded. Okay, so over the years, the knowledgeable sources say staffers for Republican officials would regularly flag the Twitter content they believe violated the app's terms of service or other policies, including on spreading misinformation or disinformation. So yes, both sides, even though I'm hinting that one side's worse than the other, both sides were doing it. A sentiment was shared by those who worked for Twitter. Everybody worked the refs. One source familiar with congressional requests to the social media company said, usually the Republicans. Most of the time, rather than saying, why are you taking things down, it was, you need to put things back up. It was put me back, put me back. Again, you're kind of contradicting what you just said. You're saying that the Republicans came to you a lot. You said that they're censoring, but here they're asking you not to censor them. This is a fairly inconsistent article, and maybe I'm being disingenuous for sharing it, but in Tagan's case, the White House's attempt to get Twitter to remove criticism of the president was sparked by a late-night exchange initiated by Trump. The then-president blasted musician John Legend and his filthy-mouthed wife, and freaking Trump, for being insufficiently grateful to him for signing the Criminal Justice Reform First Step Act. The White House removal request landed on the desk of Annika Collier-Navaroli, who testified that her supervisors had informed her the White House wanted Twitter to evaluate the post. They wanted it to come down because it was a derogatory statement, told the House Oversight Committee. Okay, now sorry, Trump, that's wrong. Despite their own past behavior, Republicans are using their newfound control of the House to probe Democrats and federal law enforcement agencies' interactions with Twitter, which, yeah, that's what they'll do. Your side does the same thing when they're in control. So during the House Oversight Committee's hearing on Twitter's handling of the New York Post Hunter Biden laptop, Republicans thundered about what they claimed collusion between Twitter and supposedly hostile federal agencies like the FBI to suppress the distribution of the Post's trove of private files from then-candidate Biden's son. The obvious irony here is, the sources note, Republican leaders and elected officials have long been committing precisely that kind of government interference that they are now investigating, fundraising off of and accusing Democrats and so-called anti-Trump deep state of perpetrating. Some of the loudest conservative and MAGA voices on Capitol Hill, who've been endlessly demanding taxpayer-funded, high-profile investigations into big tech bias and collusion, were themselves engaged in the behavior they now claim is colluding. This is one of the original concerns about content moderation and platform power, that they could be used by the government to take down speech that the government wants censored, that it couldn't get taken down through legal mechanisms. One of the things in scholarship around this for a long time is a desire to make government and platform relationships more transparent and more formalized, so that you can't just have random people calling random employees trying to get stuff removed or backed off. Facebook, at the urging of the Independent Oversight Board, was already committed to publishing more data about requests from state actors. What this article doesn't know is that a year later, Zuckerberg would basically apologize and admit that they censored too far. But this article can't know that. So, despite Twitter's apparent new concern about government pressure, the company's leadership has blown off similar proposals when Alex Stamos, Facebook's former chief of security, who now heads the Stanford University's Internet Observatory, and I need to do a post about them someday. Proposed a similar mechanism to Elon Musk late last year. The new Twitter CEO blew up at him, writing, "You operate a propaganda platform." I'm going to reveal my bias. I agree. I 100% agree with Elon Musk on that. Please feel free to look up Stanford University's Internet Observatory. You will have to do a little bit of digging, but you will learn things that will appall you. Unless you are biased, to a point that you don't care. Frosty B. Rocks, break time over. Y'all have fun. Remember, question everything, and you are 100% correct. Pleasant Valley Picker of Canada, they froze the bank accounts of trucker protesters. People calling for the death of my country are untouchable. Does not add up. No, I agree. And again, I don't want to get in between you two because I know where Frosty is coming from, but I also know where you're coming from. I get it. Pleasant Valley, I'd urge folks to look at the historical roots of the Middle East conflict. I think some folks might change their opinions if they knew the history. And the irony is that there are people in this chat who will vociferously disagree with your thought, but in principle, I think we do all agree that, yes, I think if we understood more about the history of the Middle East conflict, which honestly, whichever side we're on that one, we probably would find our views altering. Matt Cheatwood, the U.S. has no business interfering anywhere outside of our own borders without a declaration of war from Congress. Hell to the yes. And when was the last declaration of war? Okay. I'm going to the Twitter files now, where I was going to. Damn it. It may not let me in. I know I'm subscribed to them. Yeah, maybe later. Okay. I've already looked at the Twitter files. I've already shared them. So I don't want to repeat a whole bunch of it. Pleasant Valley generally enjoys geeking out. Lately, politics are on all of our minds, I think. Watching what's happening in the UK is troubling. Yes, I've talked tangentially about that, and I'm deeply disturbed about the things that are going on over there. I don't know. I'm going to say the same thing that Kennedy said. No, I'm going to quote him. I'm going to quote him. How's that? Or paraphrasing. He came out and condemned replacement theory, condemned it as racist. And I think that he's right to do so. Having said that, the people of the United Kingdom are concerned, and some of their concerns are legitimate. A similar thing that's happening in the United States is happening there. And while I get that we need to be Christian, we need to be kind to the alien and all that, my neighbor's an alien. He's from Mexico. He's totally, maybe I shouldn't say totally harmless, but he doesn't harm anybody. At the same time, something not right in a big way is going down. And just to label everybody who notices that concern as a racist is disingenuous and defeating and wrong. June 5th, 1942 was the last declaration of war. To my knowledge, that is correct. Pleasant Valley, I've heard UK folks getting possibly jailed for online opinions. I have heard the same, and I have confirmed it from 2 people from Britain that yes, it is happening. Cyberpunk Dystopia, I'm here. The Thought Police Stop This Podcast. LOL. Welcome. I hope you are doing well. I'm not going to repeat everything that I've said already, but essentially, a friend of mine called me out for being too biased, and I'm not poo-pooing that, but I am perhaps a little bit. I'm basically sharing a difference, that the Republicans have also censored, and that's not cool. Matt Cheatwood, here's a funny thought. Why don't all the replacement theory people just move to the country all these refugees are fleeing from and take it over? I don't even know how to comment on that without being in trouble. That is funny. Please read these files. It is eye-opening. Yes, the Republican. In fact, I guess I can find that. What you're about to read is the first installment. The Twitter files tell an incredible story from inside one of the world's largest and most influential social media platforms. It's a Frankensteinian tale of a human-built mechanism grown out of the control of its designer. Twitter was a brilliant tool for enabling instant mass communication. It more than lived up to its mission statement at the beginning, giving people the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. As time progressed, however, the company was slowly forced to add those barriers. Some of the first tools for controlling speech were designed to combat the likes of spam and financial fraudsters, which that's legit. Slowly over time, Twitter staff and executives began to find more and more uses for these tools. Outsiders began petitioning the company to manipulate speech as well. First a little, then more often, then constantly. By 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come back handled. Here's a picture of that tweet. Celebrities and unknowns alike could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. I grabbed the first one. Defer to safety on the high profile. Both parties had access to these tools. In 2020, requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. However, this system, in spite of what Rolling Stone just said, all right, have a good one, Matt Cheatwood. Thank you for coming. I hope you take care of those goats. The system wasn't balanced. It was based on contacts because Twitter was and is overwhelmingly staffed by people of one political orientation. There were more channels, more ways to complain open to the left than the right. And you have to remember something. Please remember this when I'm reading this. Matt Taibbi has never voted Republican in his life. I suspect he will this time, but I suspect this will be the first time. Matt Cheatwood is the declaration of war on Romania. That was the last that day, it looks like. And Miss Frosty, hi, hey, hello. I hope you're having a beautiful day. Thank you for coming on here. I'm ranting about censorship. It's one of my favorite topics. And here again, I know you want me to be centrist, but how can I look at these figures and be centrist? How can I look at these figures and not admit that this is not even remotely fair? These were the contributions of Twitter to the different parties. In 2022, $165,969 to the Democrats, $451 to the Democrats. 968,000 versus 909. There must be something. Oh, yeah, $909. 309,000 versus 295,000, or 290. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. 295,000 compared to 11,100. 909,000 versus 14,137. 2020, frankly, was their closest to centrist year. 165,000 versus 451. If you want to say, well, of course it's biased. January 6th had happened. I'm that way too. Well, yeah, but when you've been censored enough online, and I got to tell you, I've reposted lots of liberal posts. I've reposted lots of right-wing posts. It is invariably the right-wing post that either gets took down or gets a nasty gram or gets a fact check. Invariably. I know exactly and only one liberal friend who one time got put into Facebook jail, and that friend would claim that they're a Reagan Republican. So if I'm going to be really snotty, I can make the claim that I have no liberal friends who have ever been fact-checked or taken down or shadow banned. It's anecdotal, but it's my experience. Pleasant Valley Picker, the liberal government here is trying to pass Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act. It aims to hold online speech accountable. They are using protection of kids as an excuse. And look, I get it. I want kids protected. But yeah, it seems like we use a lot of excuses for a bad behavior. Thing is, laws protecting kids online were passed years ago, 100%. Just enforce them. Many Canadians suspect it will be similar to the UK law silencing free speech. Yeah, I wonder. The Twitter files, how and why Twitter blocked the Hunter Biden laptop story. I'm sorry. It didn't used to upset me, but now it does. Because I've learned how far down the rabbit hole that goes. And I've also learned that it could have influenced the election. Now I get FBI claims, well, we had this October surprise for Trump about Hillary's laptop or whatever the hell it was, and we don't want to influence one again, so we're going to keep quiet. Well, okay. Again, going to try to be somewhat centrist for a bit. I've got plenty of time. So, for the good of my friend who has a point, in this state, Republicans do have some censorious tendencies, and I'm not going to try to deny that. I'm not going to try to deny things. Here's the long list. This is Education Week of topics Republicans want banned from the classroom. And this is what my friend is thinking of. Enigma Severus, I know you're a teacher. I would be curious to know, because I also know that you actually are a Republican and not just in name only. I would be curious to know what your thoughts are on this. Republicans this year have drastically broadened their legislative efforts to censor what's taught in the classroom, according to an Education Week analysis of active state bills. This was from 2022. What started in early 2021 as a conservative effort to prohibit teachers from talking about diversity and inequality in so-called divisive ways or taking sides on controversial issues has now expanded to include proposed restrictions on teaching that the United States is a racist country, that certain economic or political systems are racist, or that multiple gender identities exist, according to an Education Week analysis of 61 new bills and other state-level actions. In Florida, a bill would ban teachers from saying racial color blindness is racist. In South Carolina, a bill would ban teaching that equity is a concept that is superior to or supplants the concept of equality. In New Hampshire, promoting a negative account of a representation of the founding and history of the United States of America could become illegal if a bill were passed into law. Pleasant Valley, now Trudeau is talking about proroguing Parliament, which essentially means shutting it down. Yeah, I'll believe that. Jeff, Hunter's laptop content was used against Hunter by the FBI at his trial, at which he pled guilty. Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure if I'm on the ball as far as your point, but yes, that is true. It was. It's just we were lied to at the time and told that it was Russian disinformation, and then it turned out that no, it was true. And that's what I'm hopping up and down about. I don't want to say that the FBI is completely guilty, nor do I want to say they're completely innocent. Pleasant Valley, it's one way to stop the official opposition from holding the government accountable. Yeah. Well, freedom of speech, that's a real thing. It's a real boundary on government. In at least 10 states, legislators have proposed bills that would require administrators to list every book, reading, and activity that teachers use in their lessons, a process that educators argue would be cumbersome and expensive. Some of these bills also require districts to give parents prior right of review for new curriculum adoptions or library additions. Since January 2021, 14 states have passed into law what's popularly referred to as anti-critical race theory legislation. These laws and orders, combined with local actions to restrict certain types of instruction, now impact more than 1 out of every 3 children in the country, according to a recent study from UCLA. Similar to legislation passed last year, many of these new bills propose withholding funding from school districts that don't comply with these regulations. Some, though, would allow parents to sue individual educators who provide banned material to students, potentially collecting thousands of dollars. In interviews with Education Week, state representatives said these new bills are designed to prevent teachers from telling children what to think, encouraging them to see divisions, or asking them to adopt perspectives that are different from those of their parents on issues like policing, Black Lives Matter, gender identity, and human sexuality. Doug Ritchie, a Missouri Republican who introduced the Parents' Bill of Rights in that state, said that families are upset that schools have turned to a quasi-activist approach. Pleasant Valley Picker, polls are showing that the conservatives will get a landslide in the next election. The liberals could be reduced to a third-party status, and well, after all, that's why we'll have to stop Parliament. We can't have that happen. I filed this bill because there had been an obvious erosion of trust, and I want that trust to be rebuilt, he said. But opponents of these bills argue that the legislation is aimed at stifling conversation about racism and oppression. Heather Fleming, the founder of the Missouri Equity Education Partnership, an advocacy organization that supports anti-bias and anti-racist education, said the bills are designed to privilege the desires of white parents over others. They're packaging some of these laws as parents' bills of rights. What parents? Because my daughter is entitled to see her culture and her heroes, people who look like her, in the curriculum too, said Fleming, who is Black. Both the bill's supporters and critics agree that providing students' families with more avenues to challenge materials would fuel the ongoing battles on local school boards, where heated debates have already erupted into instruction that addresses racism, oppression, and gender identity. Local pressures against critical race theory have led to educators self-censoring. Yeah, that's a big problem. I mean, whichever side you're on as far as critical race theory, the fact is most of us have gotten to where we self-censor for whatever reason. Pleasant Valley. Anyway, sorry for the Canadian content. No, it's absolutely fine. Just want to share what's happening. No, please do. We always hear about American politics. Yeah, I love Russell Brand. Between Russell Brand and sadly Tucker Carlson, if it weren't for them, I would probably not even know about those protests, the trucker protests. And I hate what happened to them, and I hate that they tried to slander them and paint them as a bunch of racists and white nationalists. During the 2021 legislative session, though, only a handful of state bills concerned curriculum transparency or parents' right to object to classroom materials. Instead, most prohibited teaching a list of divisive concepts, which originally appeared in an executive order signed by then-President Donald Trump in the fall of 2020. The order banned certain types of diversity training in federal agencies, preventing trainers from saying, for example, that one race or sex is inherently better than another, that all people of a certain race have unconscious bias, or that the United States is a fundamentally racist or sexist country. Other conservative advocacy groups, some with ties to Trump, developed model legislation that would ban public schools from teaching these concepts, in some cases labeling them as critical race theory. The term refers to the academic theory that racism is perpetuated by structural forces like laws and policies rather than individual acts of bias. But proponents of these bills have used the term to refer to a broad swath of lessons about racism, oppression, and other social issues. 36 bills introduced this year still include this list of prohibited concepts, and 30 ban the teaching of critical race theory outright. More legislators have broadened the scope of banned topics beyond the original list in Trump's executive order. In several states, teachers are not allowed to teach that America is fundamentally or irredeemably racist. Jeff B., it's always nice to get information from a source without a mainstream media filter. Yeah, 100%. Just want to encourage, is there any idea on how the vote may fall next month? It's funny. Nearly every day I get something pops up and almost it's constantly going back and forth. Like right now, my echo chamber is saying that Trump is going to win, but who knows what tomorrow will say. And the polls, I really feel like polls are somehow slanted. And if you don't believe me, just remember that the Trump victory in 2016 took everybody by surprise. Nobody saw it coming. So I don't know how much we can believe polls, but I do see the latest feed showed me that. In fact, let's just go there. I hope y'all are okay. I feel like I've read enough of this. Hopefully, you can make up your own mind. Which both sides censor. Let's just be honest and real here. Both sides censor. Do you believe one side censors more than the other? Do you believe that one side censors more dangerously than the other? Do you think that Republicans getting massively censored in social media is as bad or worse or less bad than what the right is doing with bills trying to basically control what teachers say and what they think? Pleasant Valley. Thanks, Jeff. I just like to communicate with folks that care about our world. Hey, thank you. I do care about the world. Mainstream pundits were totally wrong about Trump not getting elected when he got in the first time. That's correct. Let's look up who is polling Trump or Harris. I'm also interested. Who is favored to win? Projects538.com, New York Times, BBC. Who do we trust the most? I don't really trust any of these people, but I'm going to go with BBC. This is 11 hours ago. If you believe the BBC, Kamala is leading Trump by 2 points. So, again, this poll actually looks completely different than the one that the internet showed me this morning. I couldn't tell you which one's accurate or if any of them are accurate. Heck, Elon Musk ran a poll on X, and 75% of the people were supporting Trump. Now, that's not it's obviously not scientific, and let's be frank and honest. One, Twitter has become kind of a conservative bastion because we can go there and say our minds without being shot down. And two, Elon Musk has had his own journey. And three, you'll have a lot of people who are not American citizens and therefore couldn't vote that are in that poll. Jeff B. Trump said on stage today he's up 4 in Michigan. Wow, that's optimism. Red Eagle politics is good but biased. I understand that. BBC, no, they're painfully woke. Well, all of these are, though. I mean, I'm not arguing with you, but so I'll tell you what. You tell me what source you want me to look at, and I'll look up what they say. You just said, what did you say? Red Eagle politics. All right, let's look up Red Eagle Politics. Poll. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, Pleasant Valley, BBC. So I'm curious to know. So the friend that I'm basically being a bad friend to right now told me that his main source for news is NPR. And while I feel it's less biased than others, I still think there's a strong left-wing bias. And I don't even mean a weak one. I mean a strong one. Please let me know what you think, if I'm full of crap or not. I'm not an expert in U.S. politics. I have no idea what source to trust. No, I'm with you on that. That's actually part of my journey here, is trying to figure out who can we trust. And one of my shticks is to, like, I've disproven a lot of the lies about Trump, but I use the left-leaning sites because I don't know if you noticed, but some of them are finally admitting that some of these things were lies. Red Eagle Politics. Trump surges in Georgia. Trump taking a commanding lead. Updated House map prediction. They're flipping from blue to red. Let's just play one. And, we don't necessarily have to believe it, but we'll see what these people say. All right, here we go. Bunch of red there. I guess I'll turn it up. Maybe. I don't know if they have any sound or not. They don't seem to have any sound. Okay. All right, but according to that poll, $219, 226. I'm not sure. A huge Rust Belt lead, but it actually looks like at least I guess these are electoral college votes. Those seem to be trending at least mildly Democrat, although there's so many toss-up states, it could easily change. North Carolina, Trump versus Harris. Trump up 0.6. Trump up 1. Michigan, according to this, Trump at 51%. Wisconsin, Trump at 49%. Pennsylvania, Harris at 49%. So, it's hard to say. Jeff B., United Kingdom has BBC, Australia has ABC, US has 6 to 7 mainstream medias. Yeah, we do. Pleasant Valley, it's amazing. There's never been more communication, but a lot of it is unreliable. And again, it's something I did on this channel. I looked up, Huckabee did a thing about 9 lies told about Trump, and I verified it. 7 of them are demonstrably provable to be lies. The other 2, it depends on which site you believe and basically what your view of it is. As far as I can tell, the left coast blue is accurate. Right on. I want to share. I'm going to go ahead and just dive into my bias now. I want to share, when I can't figure out what topic to look at, I'll look at my channel analytics, and I'm still a pretty small channel. But these are the things that evidently people are looking for when they find me. History taught us how to deal with this, intellectual history, major political developments, sociology research methods, and these are great topics. I'm sharing this because from the time of the Trump assassination till now, I've been pretty obviously pro-Trump. Pleasant Valley Picker, thing is, the big electoral college states are the ones to win. Yeah, you're exactly right. The reason I'm sharing this is until yesterday, or whatever day this was, YouTube was constantly referring me to left-wing videos for inspiration. It would be stuff about how Kamala is destined to win and how Trump is a big dumb nom-nom. And this was the first time it started to recommend to me things with a conservative slant as inspiration. I thought I would play this one. I don't know exactly how well it deals with the topic, but I thought it was interesting. I subscribed to this channel. I even subscribed to him when I was more centrist because, let's face it, one of the problems is neither side really knows what the other side is thinking. And when you get into that echo chamber, you know, you make decisions based off of some very inadequate things. This is the channel Decoy Voice. This is basically kind of who I wish I was, but let's play this, and I'll do a little bit of commentary through it too.
Touchdown, taking at least 90 lives, wiping out entire houses in Florida, causing mass flooding and mudslides all throughout North Carolina. Even in Tennessee, farmland is being flooded, all the way down to Georgia that is also seeing massive amounts of flooding, alongside the huge chemical plant that just burst into flames, causing more mass evacuations across the state. But what has President Biden been doing during all this coverage of Hurricane Helene? Bragging about the $2.4 billion he's sending to Ukraine.
And that's why today I'm proud to announce a new $2.4 billion package of security assistance.
Even posting today, somehow looking like a wax sculpture, boasting about the billions he sent away. Focusing.
Yeah, kind of an ad hominem attack. I know it speaks to the conservatives, but maybe a pointless statement to make. What are these messages? I hope I'm not digging into Netter's time. Okay. I think I've still got some time. Yeah, her stream is in an hour and 20 minutes, so I've got plenty of time to go through the stuff that I want to go through.
On making these dramatic short films with Zelensky that even Kamala felt compelled to do as well, as Biden basically refuses to acknowledge the hurricane. So as the president shuffles away in silence, Donald Trump isn't.
All right. So I know that this is an older video. It's 10 days old. Some of this has changed. I think, at least if you listen to DeSantis, I think Biden has stepped up to the plate a little bit better. But there was a lot of outrage that first day or two on the right anyway. We have money for Ukraine, but yet we're running out of money for FEMA. There was a lot of reports, some of which turned out to be untrue, but I haven't been able to disprove all of them, and therefore I'm not going to say that they were all untrue, but basically reports that FEMA was not helping. FEMA was actually getting in the way. Kamala lost a lot of points, at least with some people, when she announced that you could apply for $750 in help. And when you contrast that to billions of dollars to Ukraine, I'm sorry, Trump wouldn't be able to get away with that. Just saying. Pleasant Valley, your elections are by the number of electoral college votes. Here it's the number of ridings, one in each province. Interesting. Interesting. I used to be against the Electoral College, and but then I read the Federalist Papers, and now I get why the founding fathers did it. I don't know. I do wish we could think of a better way, but I don't want to go straight to popular vote. And I know I have a lot of friends who I'm sure, well, that's just stupid. Well, the whole point was to make sure that the state itself had relevancy. But anyway.
Begin, I'd like to send my love and prayers to the families of those who have died, a lot of death, and all of those who are displaced and suffering in the wake of the hurricane's destruction in the South, especially in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and in particular, Western North Carolina took a tremendous hit.
As Trump has announced he will go to Georgia tomorrow to facilitate relief supplies, but for some reason the media sees this as Trump dragging the hurricane into his campaign. Now
Okay, so this is one of the reasons why I want to bring it up, because I did see a lot of difference in reporting, and that's basically what my last post was mainly about. And then I made the possible mistake of segueing into my usual interdiction of free speech, and on my last post I criticized only or nearly exclusively the left, and my friend believed that was unfair. Pleasant Valley, when I see Biden recently, I'm glad he's stepping down. He doesn't look well. Stressed president doesn't help. Hope he enjoys his retirement with his family. Yeah, I do too. I while I oppose him politically, and I think that them lying to us about his condition was unconscionable. I don't wish the man ill. I believe he has dementia. And I hate that. My father has it. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. So I hope I'm actually wrong. I hope he is healthy enough that he can enjoy his retirement. Having said that, I think that some of the things that maybe not he has done, but that the machine that's behind him has done, I call big bullshits on. Jeff B. Apply online with no electricity or phone service. Hell of a plan for Helene victims. No, I agree. But the left, again, they see it very differently. And if you're on the left, you're probably looking at, reports like this. Trump drags Hurricane Helene into 2024 campaign. And I see it differently, but maybe that is my bias.
Now, I can understand how politicians capitalizing on a tragedy is a problem, but this isn't that. We have two candidates trying to show us what kind of president they would be, and only one of them is showing us that Americans are their priority. As even though Biden isn't currently running, Kamala's campaign is basically parroting what Biden does, as the Democrats proudly post videos of them.
And I am sorry, my liberal friends, this was disgusting. I get you can probably find things that Trump's done that's disgusting. I get it, but this was disgusting. I don't want to be anti-Ukrainian. I want to unequivocally say that Putin was wrong to invade Ukraine, but this continuation of the war, signing bombs. I thought we were the United States of America. I mean, yeah, sure. We signed bombs with Kilroy was here in World War II, but I don't think this is cool to be for Americans to sign bombs that are going to hit anybody.
Signing missiles they're sending to Zelensky while he's beaming in the background. Trump was recently seen speaking with him where he wasn't looking nearly as excited. And here's the thing. I understand that there are Americans that see funding overseas conflict as their top priority. So the constant photo ops about exporting billions of their tax dollars only solidifies their vote. But when Trump says he's going to campaign in Georgia to help with their relief efforts, it isn't Trump dragging the disaster into his campaign. It's what Biden and Harris should be doing, as they're the ones currently in office. But sadly,
Well, that is Decoy Voice's opinion. I would be curious to know what your opinion is in the chat.
This is pretty on brand for their administration, as last year in East Palestine, Ohio, when the train derailed, was curiously burned, sending toxic fumes into the sky.
And here's the deal. If it was just this one incident, I would be okay with poo-pooing this. You know, I would be okay with the opposition saying, well, Trump had Katrina and nobody's perfect and it's hard to manage a catastrophe. And all that's true. Once can be random. Twice is a pattern. 3 times is enemy activity.
Sky, making the entire area look like a war zone. Biden didn't even acknowledge it. He just rushed to Ukraine to surprise them with another $500 million of our tax dollars. And 6 months later, when Lahaina in Hawaii burned to the ground, Biden was again asking for another $24 billion to send to Zelensky. But when he finally did arrive to Hawaii, he promptly fell asleep. So add Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia, alongside Ohio and Hawaii, as the states that saw for themselves how little the Democrats...
And something I want to point out, Pleasant Valley, we have 338 federal electoral districts, commonly referred to as ridings. Winning a riding means the party that won gets a seat in parliament. The party with most seats forms the government. Right on, right on. I wish I knew more about Canadian government. I've studied British government more than I have Canadian. But interesting. What are your thoughts on the United States Constitution? Do you think it's cool? Do you think it should be gotten rid of? Do you think it is the best thing since sliced bread? Do you think it should be altered in any ways?
Prioritize their residents, and in theory should never vote for them again. As I imagine how infuriating it would be to see this, while you were stranded on a hospital roof in Tennessee, while your neighbor was...
Yeah, Hawaiians were hot. They were not happy. And Tulsi had already made her transition to an independent, but she talked at length about the administration's failures in supporting Hawaii.
Was kayaking through their own living room in Florida, or one of the million people currently without power, as this map may be the key to why Kamala doesn't seem to care, as it closely resembles the election map from the presidential race in 2020. But Harris's...
Do you agree, or do you think that that's not true? The one thing that makes me pause to agree with them is Hawaii is about the bluest of the blue, and they seemed to act just as nonchalant about Hawaii as they have been about the rural South.
Ad Today says she's there for all Americans.
I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? I intend to be a president for all Americans.
So why does her Twitter, also from today, only show her reposting requests for campaign contributions, blasting Donald Trump for not coming from a middle-class family, more panhandling for cash while she's likely wearing tens of thousands of dollars of jewelry, and more Orange Man bad posts highlighting how Trump made the border worse during her administration, which only highlights how the border...
Which, my liberal friends, please explain that to me. How in the world can we pin Trump for the last 4 years of border policy? Now, if you want to say that his policy was bad, I'll listen. I don't know if I'll agree, but I will listen. But we've had this administration for 4 years. Well, Congress doesn't cooperate. Whatever, we're a parliamentary system like the United Kingdom, so probably very similar, although I don't know a lot about their parliamentary system. I think the House of Commons is fairly similar to your parliament, but I also know they have the House of Lords, which I realize is not as powerful as it used to be. Pleasant Valley, I'm trying to think of honest politicians, and it's not easy. Right on.
border czar basically refused to address the border until she was realizing it was hurting her presidential campaign. So we should add the border states in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California to the list that now has first-hand experience with the Democrats refusing to put them first until it might hurt them politically. And at this point, even if both Biden and Kamala personally fly into the flood zones tomorrow and start shoveling out,
And I can't remember if they have or not. It seems like Kamala has, but I may be completely misinformed about that. Let me know in the chat if you know.
buckets of water themselves, the people actually there will always remember who they took care of first and who got billions of dollars more, because it wasn't Americans. So if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary,
All right, there we go. Pleasant Valley, we have a House of Commons as well as a Senate. Yeah, and I hope you notice with our bicameral legislature, it isn't exactly patterned off of the British ideal, but it's influenced by it. The upper class senators in the House of Representatives, similar enough. I wanted to share. There's a lot of things I want to share. I want to share some things that I've seen on X. X, so right or wrong, maybe wrong, has become kind of my go-to for things. I'm going to share this thing first. Actually, no. I'll go ahead and go in the order that I have them in here.
Done has resulted.
Okay,
But it
I don't know
seems
if
that-
you've seen it, but she did a 60 Minutes interview, Kamala Harris, and then there's claims that she's had a highly edited answer. And of course, they have the right to edit, and everybody knows that news agencies edit to their own slant, but this has outraged a lot of people. Let me know what you think about this.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing
Okay.
what is
So you've seen there's two different answers. And I wondered about that because, you can see stuff posted on X and it ends up having nothing to do with the reality at all. So let's see what this is all about. I will use the mainstream media because, just so that they can't say, well, you're using biased information. All right. Vice President Kamala Harris' presidential campaign is distancing itself from CBS airing two different answers to the same question in a 60-minute interview with the Democratic nominee. CBS is facing calls to release an unedited copy of the Harris interview after the interview aired a lengthy response the vice president gave to a 60 Minutes correspondent about Israel to promote its lengthy sit-down. Harris' meandering answer that first aired on a Sunday show, Face the Nation, didn't make the version that aired on a special Monday edition of 60 Minutes. A shorter, more focused answer to the same question was shown instead. The Harris campaign insists it had nothing to do with the edit. That may be true. And the cynic in me wants to call a BS, but it may be true. It's common for networks to edit answers in news packages for time. The fact that two entirely different responses to the same question aired on consecutive days caused some confusion, although it could have been two portions of one long response to Whitaker's question. Conservatives mocked her answer, referring to it as word salad, suggesting it as a key example of why Harris rarely sits down for tough interviews. When CBS aired the Fuller interview on Monday night, which addresses numerous topics and aired the same question, it omits Harris' answer shown on Sunday entirely. So here's my question. Is Trump right? Or is he full of crap? Is that an example of mainstream media colluding with the Dems? Is it a smoking gun, or is he just being a whiny butt? Because it is true, they have the right to edit, but I hope my liberal friends will understand that a right-winger is going to look at that and smell a rat. And I don't think I can blame them for smelling a rat. Jeff B., like the U.S. Constitution, is it perfect? What is? No, nothing is. Pleasant Valley, well, as Canadian observer, seems your founding fathers did pretty darn well. I agree. Jeff B., the 60-Minute staff edited the crap out of that interview. I have a feeling our left-wing mentality will endanger Israel and Western democracy. I tend to agree. Again, I'm trying to be more fair, but I tend to agree. Another thing that I saw on X that I watched and wondered about. So one of the things that used to make me pretty strongly anti-Trump was all the court cases about him. But then I started doing digging, and I'm no lawyer, I'm no attorney, but in my humble opinion, a lot of this lawfare is crap. I'm going to share what's been going
So
around
the
on
Trump
it.
fraud case went before the appellate court this week. And by the time it was over, the closing arguments of the Democrat lawyers was just them begging to not get sanctioned. So look, many people aren't aware that the Trump fraud case went before the appeals court this week. And if you don't know how an appeals court works, there are 5 judges that sit in judgment for these cases. And they basically let the prosecution and the defense both lay out their cases. And their job is to consider whether or not the case was worth hearing in the first place. And it went so badly for the Democrat lawyers that by the end of it, their closing arguments was just them begging to not get sanctioned. So they argued a ton of different things throughout this case. But the biggest thing was the judges kept interrupting them. They kept saying, hold on. Can you find me one other time in history where the person who took the loan was able to call the bank that they took the loan from, and then that bank showed up and said, we weren't defrauded?
Okay, so what are your thoughts on what he's saying there? This is one of the reasons why I call a BS, at least on this case. The bank testified on his behalf, and yet we're going to say that this was fraud. Now, one of my friends has said, well, that's just because, it just means that too many big shots are doing fraud and lies. And that may be so, but I don't see the fraud in this. I really, honestly don't. When you buy a house, there's a third party typically hired by the bank. They verify the value of your property. And so to me, the only way to actually nail Trump on fraud on this would be to have proof that he bribed that official. If you have proof that he did, then okay, he's guilty. But to my knowledge, that was never established in the case.
And the lawyers spent like 2 hours trying to find one little instance where it happened. But then the judges said, okay, let's try something else. They said, hey, have you ever prosecuted someone for lying about the value of a property when it resulted in the entire loan being paid back with interest? And again, they gave them like 2 hours to try to explain their case, and they still couldn't produce a single case where that had happened. And then the judges said, hey, you know what? We'll give you another shot. They said, have you ever seen an attorney general prosecute a case where there was no damage to the public? There was no damage to the person you said was defrauded, and there was no actual malice committed by the person who took the loan.
And again, the argument was, well, it doesn't matter. It's still against the law. Well, I still don't. I tried to read the judge's judgment in that case. I got maybe 10 or 15 pages in. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so maybe a lawyer would look at it and be able to say yay or nay. It looked like a freaking bunch of gobbledygook to me. It made zero sense. I'm always skeptical on X video opinions. They seem mostly to have an agenda, and this one does. I'll give you some receipts here in a bit.
And then they took another like 6 hours on that one. And by the end of it, the judges were like, so you don't have any instance of that happening. And then by the time they were done, the judges were like, I don't even know if this is a case that should have been brought. And they said, look, y'all might need to be sanctioned for bringing this case in a malicious manner. One of the judges actually said, I have come to believe that since a case like this has never been brought in the history of the country, not only New York, that you have only brought this case because the person was running for president, which would put you afoul of not only multiple regulations regarding the law, but would also run you afoul of electioneering interference. In fact, at the end of it, when they got to give their closing arguments, instead of arguing the value of their case, instead of arguing that like we should have been able to bring this case because of X and Y and all this shit, they actually just said at the end, we hope that the court will take into account that lawyers need to be able to bring cases like this without the threat of sanction. Basically, they were saying, we hope that you decide that we're not going to get in trouble for bringing this bullshit case.
Okay. I won't play the rest of it. It's out here if you want to hear the rest of it. It's not so much that I'm trying to do your thinking for you as I feel like the rest of the thing is more of what you've already heard. Jeff B. Exaggerating assets is common practice. The bank must evaluate the asset and determine what can be loaned, period. And yes, and to my understanding, that's what happened. Let's see what is because I had to do a little bit of research because I wasn't going to just share that with no research at all. Reuters, appellate judges skeptical of New York civil fraud case against Trump. Trump's lawyer speaks in front of the appeals courts. Is this the one I was going to look at? Maybe not. This might be an old one, and I may be a big dumbass. Okay. New York, September 26. Appeals court judges signaled skepticism on Thursday toward the civil fraud case brought by New York State against Donald Trump, as the former president asked them to toss a nearly $500 million judgment against him over real estate business practices that a trial judge declared fraudulent. See, okay. The summary. Judge found Trump liable. Trump appeals. New York says case seeks to protect market integrity. Justice Arthur Engoron in February ordered Trump, the Republican candidate, to pay $452 million or $454 million in penalties. We all know that. Members of the 5-judge panel on the appellate division, the mid-level state appellate court hearing arguments in Trump's appeal, appeared concerned about possible overreach by James. So even if this guy turns out to not be entirely correct, he's correct about that. Two of the judges interrupted Judith Vale, the lawyer arguing for New York, during her opening statement to ask if there were any other examples of the state suing over private business transactions between sophisticated parties under a law aimed at protecting market integrity. Every case that you cite involves damage to consumers, damage to the marketplace, Justice David Friedman told Vale. We don't have anything like that here, Friedman added, saying that nobody lost any money. I gotta say, it's hard for me to think that something's fraud if nobody involved lost any money. Thing is, when a private citizen interprets what a judge decided, I wonder what their legal expertise is. No, you're right. That's why I'm reading this. Yeah, I'm still on here. I'm almost finished, though. I'm ranting about stuff that I've seen on X and trying to establish whether it's worthy or not. Thing is, years ago, they said Trump was the biggest criminal since the Joker. He seems to be doing okay now. Unlike that awful movie sequel, Right On. The judges also wondered about what constraints applied to the law James cited in bringing the case. See, this is what worried Mr. Wonderful and worries me too. You think it's justified to use it to take down Trump? Well, what if I decide to open a business in New York City and you decide to use it to take me down? That's been the mantra, right, of the left, that the law, nobody is above the law. Well, here's the other side of that. The law applies equally to everybody. So if I'm a business owner and I see what's going on there, I am not going to do any business there. I'm just not. I can't afford the risk, because who knows if they won't like my politics? Who knows if they won't like some of the things I say or tweet? The judges wondered about what constraints applied to the law. James cited in bringing the case one that is typically used to go after fraudsters who target vulnerable consumers, which is the legitimate reason for it. How do we draw a line, or at least put up guardrails? Justice Peter Moulton asked. Vale, the state's deputy solicitor general, said the statute known as Executive Law 6312 is broadly aimed at stopping fraud and illegality, and was therefore appropriate in Trump's case. When risk is injected in the market, that does hurt the counterparties, and it does hurt the market as a whole, Vale said. That's, again, I'm not an attorney, but that sounds terribly disingenuous. Jeff B., Joker was the last film I saw in the theater. The case stemmed from Trump's leadership in his family real estate company, the Trump Organization, before he became president in 2017. Trump in April averted possible asset seizures in the case by posting a $175 million bond while he appeals. Trump's lawyer, John Sauer, told the judges that trial testimony showed that any discrepancies in Trump's net worth was irrelevant to his lenders. What is not disputed is the testimony that if the net worth had been as low as $1 million, the deal would have been exactly the same, Sawyer said. Sawyer added that none of Trump's lenders and business partners were harmed by the discrepancies on the financial statements, an argument Trump's lawyer has made throughout the case. There were no victims, no complaints, Sawyer said. During his rebuttal argument, Sawyer said Vale had struggled to articulate any clear principle that would limit the state's enforcement power under the law. Engoron's ruling poses a threat to the business empire Trump has built over decades, which includes hotels, office buildings, golf courses around the world. With interest continuing to accrue, Trump now owes $478.3 million. The case is one of a number of legal entanglements Trump has faced since leaving the White House. He owes nearly $90 million in federal civil penalties for defaming a writer who accused him of sexual abuse, and was convicted in May on criminal charges stemming from hush money paid to a porn star. And I'm not going to give the receipts here, but it's my humble opinion that both of those cases are crap. I'm sorry. I know that there are people who will disagree with that. Trump has denied all wrongdoing and has said the cases were brought to interfere with his campaign. A Reuters poll on Tuesday showed Vice President Kamala Harris leading Trump 47-40 nationwide. We were talking about how the polls are so all over the place. In a brief submitted in July to the Appellate Division, Trump's lawyer said that the financial statements he submitted to banks actually understated his wealth. There is no indication that any of the lenders suffered losses. The lawyers also accused James, a Democrat, of targeting a political adversary. In September 2023, before a 3-month trial with no jury, Engoron found Trump liable for lying about his asset values and net worth for a decade. The judge took particular issue with Trump's claim that his Manhattan penthouse apartment was 30,000 square feet, nearly 3 times its real size. The trial focused solely on penalties. In addition to the financial penalties, Engoron banned Trump from serving in a top role at any New York company or seeking loans from banks registered in the state for 3 years. And that is that. So, I mean, the 30,000 square foot discrepancy, maybe that's something that needs to be investigated. But again, the purpose of the law is to protect small people from fraudsters. The bank's not a small person. The bank approved of it. The bank did not file the charges. The bank testified on his behalf. So I think that it is, if you want to say he was dishonest, okay, but was he dishonest to a point that he deserves to be bankrupted? I humbly suggest no. Jeff B., I saw Deadpool and Wolverine in the theater. We laughed our asses off. It was really great. Power to Ryan Reynolds making a great film while mocking Disney's woke culture with my cousin, I met. Awesome. Okay. I'm almost done. I've got a few more things I want to share on X. Hopefully I'm not boring you. Let me know if you are. We talked about this. Some of you may know I was a supporter of Robert F. Kennedy. His mother, Ethel Kennedy, passed peacefully this morning. She was 96. She died in Boston, surrounded by many of her 9 surviving children and her friends. God gave her 34 grandchildren, 24 great-grandchildren, and the energy to give them all the attention they required. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I just want to convey my condolences. I'm so sorry. I know you'll probably never hear this, but I'm sorry for the loss. I know she was elderly, but still, it's an interesting thing. It's not an interesting. It's a sad thing. People pass. Scott Adams, who does the Dilbert cartoon, shared this. I wanted to see what you guys think about this. CNN panel admits they messed up, drove Elon Musk away from the Democratic Party. They say they should have respected his contributions. Let's see what they say and what you guys think about it.
A rhetoric that makes politicians something less than what they are, which is human beings.
I appreciate your saying that, Scott. I think where the Democrats started to lose Elon was that.
Now, they don't talk about it here, but when they started to lose Elon was when the thing happened with his son, where his son transitioned. And I'm not wanting to be all judgmental about that. It's basically something between Elon and his son. But Elon felt that he was lied to and that he basically lost his son. And that's where it started. But I don't doubt that the things that these people are talking about contribute to Elon leaving the Democratic Party.
It's actually personal. We should have celebrated his contributions to electric vehicles, even though he was against unionization and stood up to unions. We should have said, look, Starlink, great product. That needs to be used. We should celebrate the fact that he's had the first commercial success of private people in space. And I think a lot of it was that we didn't celebrate it, and he felt offended.
It does get a lot of attention.
I'm genuinely curious. I mean, was there something, do you think, that Democrats did? What was the thing?
Yes.
What was the thing?
Yeah.
That they
I got
did
it.
to
I got a call
alienate
from him
Elon
about it
Musk?
when he
Okay.
wasn't invited to that EV summit. He should have been.
Yeah, and mystery solved when basically you lose your son because of in your mind. I don't want to, again, I don't want to be totally on Elon's side here, but in your mind, you've lost your son to this party, to the things that they're espousing and saying. And then that party ignores you, and that party castigates you, and that party gets upset because you bought X, and that party gets upset because you reveal the horrible things that you've done on X. And Enigma Severus does have a beautiful video on Rumble. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Either that or maybe I'll just give you a wrench. You probably deserve a wrench by now. Let me view on YouTube, because I usually do this just in StreamYard, because otherwise I get this big thing. Have I gotten too biased? 67% say no, 33% say yes. So, all right. Enigma Severus. Add as a moderator. Can review, hide. Okay, here we go. Actually, for now I'm gonna make you a standard moderator. You probably deserve to be a managing moderator, but there we go. And then if you post it before I do, awesome. And if not, I will try to find Rumble. Enigma Severus. I need to do more stuff on Rumble. Do you have to be a paid person to post on Rumble? Every time I've tried to post on it, it does something funny. It seems to make me want to pay, and I'm too much of a cheapskate at the moment to pay to post. Am I not subscribed to you on Rumble? The hell? I'm almost certain I subscribed to you on Rumble. Enigma Severus got to it first. So there it is. But I am going to click on it because I want to make sure that I'm at least subbed to you on Rumble. I'm almost certain I did. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Enigma. All right. Cool. Nice to hear someone is making decent films in the current climate. It was great fun. Like the first two Deadpool films, it was irreverent, cheeky, and hilarious. Plus, it's the first ever R-rated Disney film with violence and blood. Reference flipping 10 minutes. That would be right now, I assume. The bloody fight scenes were hilarious. Only Ryan Reynolds could pull that off. You're too kind, Enigma. Thank you very much. Okay. There we go. There we go. And I must add that Hugh Jackman is indeed jacked. The guy must work out a lot as he's in his 50s and has muscles in his muscles. All is well. I'm always happy to hear your discussions on here. Thank you very much. And Jeff saw a couple of Deadpool fan films, which were hilarious fun. All righty.
Invited. I called the White House. I never call the White House.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why didn't you invite him? He's very angry. And in fact, I had an interview with Pete Buttigieg at the time, who also was a little bit glib about it. And I was like, he's critically important in this sector. I think the union thing was the big deal of why they didn't invite him, and they should have. He deserved that credit for
And then
what he's
people
been
were
doing.
tweeting out about his private flights and him taking a
Well,
private plane.
I'm sorry,
I don't
free
think
speech,
Democrats
like,
get blamed
yeah,
for that.
that's
No,
right?
no,
I mean,
I'm just saying that, look, and I think he should stay off Twitter. I certainly think he shouldn't be making jokes about the vice president. But I think with the Democrats, remember, he was a supporter of Obama. Bill Clinton, Obama had this, and we are the party that is John F. Kennedy, that is about innovation, that is about entrepreneurship.
They didn't initially give the tax credit.
We should be celebrating that
so
part of it.
there's a weird
Well, I would suggest that they were that party and that time is over. And then that's why so many have left. The question I think should be asked not just about Elon. I think it should be asked about a whole slew of people that the question needs to be asked about. Why are so many people leaving? I'm kind of torn about whether I should play this one or not. I think I'm going to. It might be a little bit clickbaity. I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with this guy, but I guess the best way to put it is I know that there are people out here thinking this, and I'm not 100% sure we can blame them for thinking this.
So you were never supposed to know that Kamala was this bad because Trump is supposed to be dead and she wasn't supposed to have to do all of these interviews. I don't think that people understand what was supposed to happen. You have to understand that they have already tried to kill this man twice. They did not want this man to be the nominee for president. They certainly do not want him back in the White House. So the plan was to kill him, to probably, install Nikki Haley as a Republican nominee. She had the second most delegates, right? And it was supposed to be between Haley and Kamala Harris, and Kamala wouldn't have had to do all of these interviews that she's been doing. She's been on this media blitz. So now a lot of people that did not know how stupid she was before, like a lot of people that did not know that this person cannot talk, can barely articulate a thought, like a lot of people that didn't know this are now discovering this. And so her campaign's in free fall, and she's likely going to lose. But like I said, you weren't supposed to know that Kamala Harris was this bad, this stupid, this empty, because Trump was supposed to be dead and she wasn't going to have to do all of these interviews that have exposed her to be the absolute moron that she is.
All right. So I played it, definitely revealing my bias. I don't know that I agree with everything that he said, but I think he can be forgiven for thinking that. I really do. I already know my friends on the other side, and they're going to howl if they hear this. And I'm sorry, but I do think not necessarily the Democratic Party, but some bad element is out there conspiring to kill the man. I personally think that that's fairly obvious if you look at what's happened and what evidence we found and what evidence was covered up. What else do I want to share? Okay, I'm going to share two more things, then I'm going to call it a stream. Yeah, I need to call it a stream soon. Nicole Shanahan was Kennedy's running mate, and she had a change of heart. She saw what was going on with the Dems by running against them. This is another reason why I think that the cases against Trump are BS, because they did the exact same thing to Kennedy. And to me, you almost have to be self-willed blind to not see a pattern. If they'd done it to Trump and not to Kennedy, then I could say, oh, well, Trump's just a whiner. But when Kennedy ends up saying almost the exact same thing.
Are you or your loved?
So, but what I've noticed is that people are basically, they're determined to hate Trump, and that's that. And they're determined that they're not going to vote for him, and that's that. Pleasant Valley says the one thing about our opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre, is he's very articulate. One reason Trudeau is worried. Right on. She made an ad after they had announced that they were suspending their campaign. And I actually think this is brilliant. I don't know exactly how substantive it is. You have to listen to some of her interviews to get a lot more of the logical thinking behind why she changed. But I love this ad, and it actually kind of sums up where I'm at now.
Are you or your loved ones suffering from illnesses such as TDS, also known as Trump derangement syndrome? Do you dismiss or deny the current issues facing our country, such as historic inflation, illegal immigration, corporate corruption, World War III escalations, and the chronic disease epidemic? Are you willing to elect someone who was the least popular vice president in modern history, and who offers no policy or vision for America simply because your brain keeps telling you anyone but Trump? If so, you might be struggling from TDS. Introducing Independence. Independence allows you the freedom to finally think independently once again. Instead of believing everything you hear from the mainstream media, independence allows for constructive critical thinking.
I used to hear people on the news say things like,
Donald Trump and the movement he has encouraged are a threat to democracy.
And I instantly believed it. With Independence, I now realize the media is run by the Democrat elite, who are a corrupt oligarchy that censors free speech, silences.
Well, who else says that, I wonder? Enigma Severus. Listen, friends don't let friends fight crime, looking like the play for the Los Angeles Rams. Right on. Yeah, she had basically until they come after you. Yeah, you don't see it. And this, my friends, this is the reason why I hop up and down. Because, yeah, right now it's just Trump. Right now it's just Kennedy. It's going to be you sooner or later. They're not going to like something about the way Enigma teaches. They're not going to like the way one of you, said a joke about somebody or something. It won't end with these people. It never does. I know all of you have heard it. They came for the Poles and I didn't speak up. They came for the Jews and I didn't speak up. They came for the communists. I didn't speak up. They came for me and there's no one left to speak up. And I know, well, it's hyperbole and that's going too far and you're demonizing, which is what you say you would never do. But I suggest maybe enough people are throwing out a warning that maybe it's not hyperbole.
Political opponents, supports forever wars, and abandons democracy by anointing its candidates.
Again, I don't want to go too far. I don't think Kamala herself would do that, but I don't think she has the moral backbone to stand up to the people who would. I think Biden, even if he had the moral fortitude to stand up to them, I think his dementia wouldn't allow it.
Independence may not be for everyone. If you enjoy being lied to about your president's cognitive abilities, support Orwellian totalitarianism, or are excited about communist fiscal policy, independence may not be right for you. Common side effects of independence may include an awakening of rational thought, successfully identifying propaganda, freedom of choice, loss of hatred, anti-narcissistic behavior, and love of democracy.
I used to blindly hate whoever my party was running against. I didn't care about facts or policy because I was hopelessly indoctrinated. With independence, I'm much more interested in policies that uphold democracy, and I truly care about the health of our country and its citizens.
Ask your doctor if independence is right for you, and enjoy your freedoms once again.
Yeah, I am quite fond of Stranahan, and even though I didn't think they would win, I was excited about the thought of voting for Kennedy and Stranahan. It wasn't Trump that shot him down. It's Trump that embraced him. But you want to say that, he demands absolute loyalty, and if you're not absolutely loyal, he just chucks you out. And then how do you explain Kennedy? Well, it's just politics. Well, look, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You just can't. One side is doing the excluding. Kennedy, Tulsi, Stranahan, Weinstein, on and on and on. And yeah, I love that she's basically taking a poke at the drug companies. Pleasant Valley picker. One thing about getting older, when you've been around the block enough times, you get good at reading the tea leaves. I don't know if I have yet, but I keep hoping I do. Enigma Severus, it may not be in our lifetime. There will be another takeover. Oh yeah, 100%. It may fail now, but eventually it will happen. We've talked about it all offline, or however you want to put it. It's a cycle. Eventually the Republic will come down. I just really hoped I wouldn't live to see it. Pleasant Valley picker, put her against Putin, the Chinese state, the Iranian theocracy. Scary. Now, here's the deal. If you support what ABC did with basically fact-checking Trump but not her, and basically helping her with her work, if you support that, because anything to make sure Trump doesn't win, I hope you understand that someone that needs that against Trump is going to fall on their faces in front of Putin or the Chinese or the Iranians. I'm going to end this stream with this. This is a tweet that Robert F. Kennedy shared. It's painful to hear, but I think I don't care what side you're on. I think you need to hear it.
I have worked at the highest levels of the media as a full-time correspondent for 60 Minutes, chief foreign correspondent for CBS News, chief foreign affairs correspondent for CBS News. That was my home for 16 years. And as a journalist, I have sat down with world leaders, mass murderers, and terrorists. And I have held people on both sides of the aisle accountable. I have seen suffering, and I have faced evil, and I have walked through the fires of hell on distant battlefields. I faced my own death at the hands of a mob of some 200 men in Egypt when I was gang raped and sodomized and beaten almost to death while on assignment for 60 Minutes. And yet for almost a decade, I have been targeted and falsely branded and accused of many things that I did not do.
Does any of that sound familiar? I mean, fine. Trump is lying and actually did do all those things. Kennedy is lying and actually did do all those things. Stranahan is guilty of what? Exactly? This woman? Look, let's see what she has to say.
They have attacked my work, my character, my sanity, and my marriage. And I am not alone. We are many. And we will not give up, and we will not give in. It's important to all of us, because of everything discussed today, that we address the vital principles and values that exist really only in the United States of America. And that said, these are the worst of times for the media in this country. We live in the age of information warfare, where propaganda is not simply a weapon, it is the entire field of battle. This is a war for our minds that is aided by advanced technology, and we have never been here, not in all of human history. It is a moment when we as journalists should stand together, united, and regardless of politics, we should fight for the truth and we should fight for freedom.
Jeff B. Yeah, she had both arms dislocated by the mob in addition to all the other horrible things. She's strong to survive rapists and go on with her life. Yeah. Yeah, so this is not someone who I think should just be disregarded or poo-pooed. This is not someone who cut off a whale's head and put it on their car. This is not someone who paid Stormy Daniels. And again, I'm not convinced that any of those other things happen at all. This is someone who reported on some of the most horrible things. Why is she being targeted?
Yet, not very long ago, we allowed one of our own to be branded as a traitor simply for doing his job. In fact, there were many so-called journalists who were leading the charge against Tucker, accusing him of treason for the simple fact of interviewing the president of Russia. And to my knowledge, there was not a single legacy media institution that spoke up. This was more than a politically motivated attack on one man. It was a betrayal of the most sacred principles of a free press. And my media colleagues know this to be true, no matter what they say. My fear is that they either no longer care or that they lack the moral courage to be honest, including with themselves.
Here's the hard-hitting question. I'm not even sure I have the courage to ask it, but is that where we personally are at? And honestly, I think both sides do need to ask it. I do think one side is absolutely guilty of it, but I think we are disingenuous if we are we just basically we just don't care that all these things are happening, or do we just have no moral courage and so we're not willing to point it out? I know I don't have enough. I should have been talking to my friends about this for years now. I should have had the courage to say, hey, look, dude, censorship is bullshit. And you can hate Trump, that's fine, but the cases against him really look disingenuous. Pleasant Valley, your story reminds me of why I'm fearful of what's happening in the Middle East. Yeah, I am too. Enigma, love you, buddy. Got to sleep. Oh, I know. No, and that's great. I'm glad you were here. I'm almost done anyway. So once I'm done with this tweet, I'll wrap it up, call it a stream.
To those who wish to censor the idea of free speech in America and all over the world. Media companies, institutions, and journalism schools have failed all of us. And for too long, we have allowed nonprofit organizations to masquerade as nonpartisan media watchdogs, when in fact they are little more than highly paid political propagandists and assassins whose entire reason for being is to crush anyone who stands in their way. And along with them, the long-held and cherished ideas of free speech, free thinking, and free minds. This is a blood sport for them. Their political allies and their puppet masters. They know how to kill a journalist without murdering them. We call it cancel culture. In truth, it is a death sentence. And they get away with it because they have information dominance.
I'm going to be a little bit unfair. I'm going to actually quote part of the text of my friend that inspired this. Shouldn't lies and disinformation be called out? 100%. But again, you can't have your cake and eat it too. The lies on the other side need to be called out, not just poo-pooed, not just, well, but you know, I care, which is why I've recently been trying to educate myself, looking at multiple sources, and that is exactly what we all need to be doing. As one of my college professors said years ago, never trust one source. Oh, you're welcome, Pleasant Valley. You're so welcome.
Some are strong enough to survive, but only a few, like Glenn Greenwald, Tucker Carlson, Matt Taibbi. Only a few like them are able to reach greater heights and thrive. These nonprofits that I'm talking about are part of a vast censorship network that includes government agencies. They use deception to mask their actions with lofty goals like preventing the spread of misinformation, disinformation, hate speech. They use phrases like protecting democracy. And make no mistake, words matter. While propaganda and censorship are not new, technology means unprecedented power and reach in the hands of a few. Companies like Facebook, Instagram, and Google, as you have heard many times today, have been allowed to amass monopoly power. And as a result, they not only reach billions of people across the world every second of the day, they have absolute control over what we see and what we hear.
There's a study by a professor that I tried to talk about on my channel and kind of got shouted down by the community. He basically established that Google alone has the power to sway an election by, I can't remember, I wanted to say it was either 10 or 15 points. It was good. It's good to have a serious political discussion. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Imagine those tools in the hands of Lenin, Stalin, Mao, Hitler. When I became a journalist more than 35 years ago, we were under emergency restrictions in apartheid South Africa, and I was 17 years old. Public safety and security were the weapons of state censors. Ours was the truth. We had no Bill of Rights, no Constitution, no First Amendment, no Declaration of Independence. And journalists would have to hide their footage from the security police, sometimes sewing the tapes into their mattresses at home so they could not be seized and used to identify and target the protesters that we'd filmed.
Kind of puts things into perspective. Yeah, the media monopoly is a concern. And that's one of the reasons why, for a long time, my friends have been irritated, but I've been listening to Russell Brand. I've been listening to Joe Rogan. Again, obviously, you don't just listen to them, but the effort to silence them was dangerous and horrible, and I cannot understand why my friends are not outraged by it. I don't get that. The only reasoning I can think is, again, either you just don't want to see it or you don't have the moral courage to see it.
The light of freedom that set fire to our hearts in South Africa was lit thousands of miles away. It was lit right here where we sit today in the United States of America. When the founding fathers put freedom of speech first, it was not by chance, it was by design. The rights that followed were in part created to protect the First Amendment. Without it, they knew that freedom itself would perish. I am reminded today of the words spoken by the British Foreign Secretary, Sir Edward Grey, in 1914, at the beginning of the First World War. He said, "The lamps are going out all over Europe. We shall not see them lit again in our lifetime. We are once again watching the lights of freedom. They're going out here and all over the world. And it is up to us to determine if they will be lit again, ever."
And I thought that would put some gravitas. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to vote for Trump. You don't have to like him. But please, please vote knowing what you're doing. I'm going to call it a stream. I know that's probably anticlimactic, but I'd like to thank everybody in the chat. I spent a long time on this. Thank you very much, John Pontorero. Thank you very much, Tim. You're probably already over at Netters Network. Matt Cheatwood is taking care of the goats. Thank you for showing up and for all of the eloquence. The MSM has co-opted the meaning of biased. In my opinion, they're unabashedly biased in favor of their currently preferred politics. Sci-Fi Mombi, thank you for showing up. I know you have a different political perspective, but I also know that you are a lover of free speech, and that unites us as brother and sister. I'm being a little melodramatic. All right, who else did I have? Gorilla's Random Thoughts. I know you're doing a stream of your own right now. Thank you very much for showing up and your support. Enigma Severus, thank you very much for your support, your readiness, your prayers, teaching kids to be swell. Moira Kitty, meow meow, thank you very much. I always love seeing you, and I know that you share truths that need to be heard. We don't always want to hear them, but they need to be heard. Resla Germ, you're also doing a stream of your own right now. Thank you very much. Sashi, the man from the future. You're likely, if you're either at work now or you're probably at Netters right now. Frosty B Rocks, thank you for showing up. Pleasant Valley Picker of Canada, thank you very much for your kindness and your warm and positive thoughts. Jeff B, thank you very much for showing up and for your comments. Who am I missing? I know I'm missing Jeff B. Dadman Walking, thank you so much for showing up and for your support. I love you guys. I hope that you are doing well. I know life has been crazy. Cyberpunk Dystopia, thank you very much. The Thought Police, thank you very much, sir. Miss Frosty, a beautiful day. Thank you for showing up and for your kind and thoughtful comments. I'm so glad you were here. You spent time that you could have spent watching a movie or listening to Joe Rogan or any kind of things, but you chose to be here. I love that. Thank you very much. All right, Pleasant Valley is going to hang out with Gorilla soon. I'm probably going to ping pong between Gorillas, Netters, and Moira's, which is hell on my OCD, but Harry Potter watch pretty soon. All right, very good. My spiel that I always give. People tell you, it's been said that life is pain, and anyone telling you otherwise is trying to sell you something. I, in fact, am trying to sell you something. I'm trying to sell you on the idea that liberty is better than slavery. Freedom is better than tyranny. I'm trying to sell you on the idea that you are smart enough to run your own life. You do not need the big government or big corporations to tell you how to run your life. And that while, yes, we should, in fact, submit to legitimate governments that we have chosen and that have demonstrated that they have our best interests at heart, we should not, in fact, submit to tyrants or to bullies. And lastly of all, I'd like you to know that you are not going crazy. In spite of the gaslighting in the media, you are going sane in a world gone mad. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you, DJ Ronnie G. I'm sorry that you missed it. I hopped up and down and tried to be centrist and ultimately wasn't, which is usually what happens anymore. I love all of you. I will see you at one stream or the other. Have a good evening.